I gotta say, I want to touch off with a quick story before we start, and actually it really pertains to your work. And of course, my two favorite books.
Oh my.
I caught you on a number of different podcasts, but I also saw you on Chris Williamson's podcast, the
Mhm.
Modern Wisdom one.
Sure.
And somewhere along the way, you mentioned how you said, "Yeah, I just jump in with whoever asked me to do a podcast. I'm happy to jump with them, help with them." And initially, I was like, "Could I? He's not going to want to talk to me. I have like 30 subscribers. Even if I do, he's not going to answer. I guess I could try." And I emailed you, and boom, all of a sudden, it was just like the self-limiting beliefs you talk about. Just keep screaming out of my head. It's just like, well, even if he does, he's not going to want to. Even if it does, it's gonna be, and then it just got a response back. And I was like, holy shit, it does work. Just ask for what you want.
Just ask. See,
oh my God.
That's the whole reason I say that. That's why I say on an interviewer that has like 2 million followers. Oh yeah, I never say no to interview requests. So I've gotten a lot of people that go, hey, you said on Chris Williams and you don't say no. And at some point, maybe someday I'll have to be more selective. I sometimes I do as many 11 interviews a week. So it can be challenging, but I enjoy the process. I'm just thrilled to death that there's so many good interviewers out there, whether they've done 3 interviews. I've done a few where I was the person's very first guest effort, and I said, well, invite me back for your 100th interview, and I expect you to do 100. So we all got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I got somebody invited me to come on their show years ago, and that was like my first interview. So I if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it, but I love it. So
yeah. So Dr. Glover, thank you for being on today. Let's start off. You struck a nerve with a lot of people with the nice guy thing pretty hard. Let's start with your background. What was it like? How did you go from where you were a minister to start and went through a number of things, became a therapist, and then became essentially like the grand master of killing off the nice guys? What was that process like, and what was that path?
How did I get to be the OG or the GOAT of nice guy syndrome? I frequently say I am a recovering nice guy, and I've been at this for probably 30 plus years working on my own nice guy stuff. And guys will ask me, Robert, do you ever get done with this? Do you ever get finished? How do you know you're done? And I'll go, I don't know. I'll let you know when I find out. Because I was raised to be a nice guy. A lot of factors went into that. Grew up in a fundamental Christian church that had a lot of negative messages about sexuality, a lot of shame, imposing a lot of toxic shame, fear. And even though I had a lot of good connections with my father, there was a fear factor there because of his moodiness and his anger and critical side. My mother was a true blue, codependent, nice girl, lots of covert contracts. She told me as a boy she was raising her sons to be different from their father. Don't be like your dad. In fact, sit around and listen to me complain about your father. That's your job. And it was until I was in my mid-30s and got into therapy and learned about boundaries and started setting boundaries with my mother. And she wasn't a big fan of my boundaries that basically said, we can talk about anything, just not Dad. And so that I grew up during the angry feminism of the 60s and 70s. Every man's a rapist and erection's a sign of aggression. And I thought, I don't want to be that guy, just listening to women talk, about all the jerks out there that just wanted one thing. Well, I won't be that guy, right? And so I was just doing my damnedest to, be a nice guy, be a good guy, be different from my father, be different from the other men, to be kind to women, to listen to them talk about their problems, to help out, to, hide my sexual agenda from them, almost as if I even hid it so much from me that, if you'd asked me, why am I talking to women? I would have never told you because I want to see their breasts. I would have said, I just like talking to women. I feel special when they tell me their problems till you find out, well, they'll talk to, checkout store people or their cat about their problems. I'm on the same level as their cat. I get to hear about, that jerk that they keep going back to. So I was that nice guy. And by the time I was 29 years old, I already had 2 degrees in religion and a PhD in marriage and family therapy. And so I was a minister for about 8 years and then moved over to doing private practice with marriage and family therapy. And about 3 years into my second marriage, my wife confronted me and said, everybody thinks you're such a nice guy, but you're not. I can't trust you. I can't depend on you. You treat me badly. You do nice things for me, and then you're mean to me. She said, I'd rather you be a jerk, because at least I know a jerk's going to treat me bad all the time. And she said, you're nice, and then you're not. And you embarrass me, you put me down, you're passive aggressive, you have victim pukes. And I go, me? You're the one who's unhappy all the time. How come I'm the one that needs therapy? So I went looking, and I found some good, luckily I landed in good places. It really did start a genuine journey of self-discovery, of therapeutic healing, of just recovery from nice guy syndrome. And as I was working on me and discovering my nice guy paradigm, I thought, if I'm just a good guy, if I treat everybody well, they'll treat me well back. And I started noticing with my clients who were coming to me for therapy, especially the men in relationship, who were like, they're just like me. I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you ever meet. I treat her better than her ex. I'm raising her kids. I buy her the Ford Explorer with the leather interior that she wanted. And they go, when's it going to be my turn? And she's always angry. She never wants to have sex anymore. And I go, hey, I could finish your sentences. and then there were the single guys. I didn't make the immediate connection because I was kind of looking at it through the lens of my lens of a guy in a relationship. But then there were the single guys saying, I have lots of female friends. Women think I'm great. They tell me their problems. I'm always there for them. But they never want to be my girlfriend. They always say, oh, some lucky woman's going to, have you someday. But they don't want me. That was before the word friend zone. But that's what it was. They were friend zoning themselves by being too nice. So I started my first No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group probably over 30 years ago, started writing just pages to give these guys about what I was learning about me, nice guy syndrome, how we got to be this way, more effective ways to be in the world. And these guys and their wives and girlfriends kept saying, Robert, you should write a book. You should go on Oprah. This could be a bestseller. And for a recovering nice guy saying I should live up to those high, lofty standards of writing a bestseller and going on Oprah, that was almost paralyzing at times. So it did get done. It took me about 3 more years to finally get it published, to find a publisher. A lot of publishers said, Robert, we like your book. It's well written, but our marketing department says men won't buy a self-help book. They were wrong. My royalty checks keep getting bigger every year. And, I can thank, a lot of interviews like this. And, I can thank Amazon and Kindle and audiobooks. And so men are hungry for this information. They're hungry for good information. And so that's kind of how I came to be kind of the guru of nice guy syndrome. I finished writing No More Mr. Nice Guy probably 25 plus years ago. And I'm still, I had a workshop here in my house yesterday, 10 guys here in my office, or last weekend. I'm still doing my own work. I'm still writing, still running an international men's program. I believe in men. That's all I do. I work with men. And I believe that we men have the power to change the world. And I believe that we are. And that excites me. So
that's awesome.
That's what I'm about. That's how I got to be talking to you today.
So essentially, nice guy syndrome is just effectively male codependency under a better name.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the name codependent. And
men really don't like to hear that.
Well, here's the thing. I consciously, 25 years ago, consciously did not use the word codependent in the book. And the primary reason for that it's not that I thought it was a bad word, but at that time, nobody had ever written or spoken of male codependency. The term actually came out of relationship dynamics around addiction, that the partner of the addicts, often alcoholics, drug addicts, was often referred to as co-addict or codependent, dependency, meaning that their dependency was on the addict. The addict was dependent on the substance. The codependent was dependent on the addict, of usually managing their behavior, trying to fix them, and maybe even enabling their behavior because of their need to have their partner be an addict so they have a job. Now, I didn't, and then from there, because a lot of times that was women in this role of the codependent relationship with the substance addict, there were books written primarily from women who love too much, probably codependent no more, books like that I read and were valuable, but they were written for women. And so when I wanted to address men, I kind of wanted to bring a different paradigm, and not so much a term that guys go, oh, codependent, that's not me. I'm not with an addict, or I'm not a woman, or I wanted to just come at it differently. Now, but it is codependency. Nice guy syndrome is codependency. And actually, there's a term that I like even better that you don't hear used very much, but it's I think, a more descriptive term, and that's borrowed functioning. And that is, I don't have an identity outside of this thing outside of me that I'm connected to. So for the nice guy, I don't have an identity other than the fact that I'm helping you solve your problems, or I'm trying to get your approval or get you to like me. And which means that I almost need you to have problems in order for me to have a role, for me to have an identity, for me to have value. And so it's a borrowed functioning in that I can't just go out and live my life on my terms and have an identity just of who I am within myself. My identity always is externally established or evolved or necessary. So whether we call it nice guy syndrome, codependency, borrowed functioning, it is all basically, in writing with men, it's men who don't believe they're okay just as they are. And I've got to become what I think other people want me to be liked and loved and get my needs met, and hide anything about me that might get a negative reaction. Mm-hmm. So I hide my needs, my wants, my feelings, my sexualities, because you might respond negatively to any of those things. So again, who I am is always determined by you. If you approve of me, I'm okay. If you don't disapprove of me, I'm safe for now. And so really the core work of recovery from nice guy syndrome is learning to be that internally validated person, learning to be the authentic you. When I say learning to be the integrated man, as I talk about in No More Mr. Nice Guy, it's the ability to take all aspects about yourself, your lightness, your darkness, your spiritual side, your material side, whatever's in the shadow, bring those all in an integrated self that we're comfortable with all of those. So we can see these things about ourselves that maybe we used to hide out of shame, but now we can look at them with non-judgment. I give the example that I can be an extremely critical and judgmental person, typically of other people. I'm not usually that judgmental of me, And so, a few years ago, I would struggle with that. Well, that's bad. It's bad to be judgmental and critical. I've got to quit that. I've got to overcome that. I got to quit being judgmental and critical. And, sometimes it would just be immense that I would just, like, every person that walked by, my mind would just, pick them apart, the clothes they wear, the shape of their body, just how they walked, how they looked. I go, oh, this is a terrible thing. And then it dawned on me that I was being judgmental about being judgmental, and that being judgmental was not going to get rid of the judgmentalness. And then I decided, well, maybe I just should own the fact that I can be judgmental. And instead of judging myself for it and trying to get rid of it, I just be the observer of it and notice when I'm being judgmental and critical and ask myself, what's going on? Why today, does everybody look fat and ugly to you? Why today are you thinking, they got up and put the clothes on today and thought that would look good to leave the house wearing? Why today? Because usually once I started letting go of the judgment and in a sense just integrating that, I can be judgmental. I accept that. And now since I'm not being judgmental, I can pay attention to what it's telling me. And usually it's telling me I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm in a hurry and there's too many people in front of me. I get really judgmental in airports. standing standing in the TSA line. Oh man, if you could hear a recording of my thoughts about every fucking moron standing in front of me. Oh, they decided it was a good idea to wear their pajamas to the airport to fly across country on an airplane. Oh, they never realized you have to actually have your computer where you can slide it easily out and put it in the tray, not in the bottom of your suitcase that you go looking for it while you're standing. You know, my judgment, it can be huge. And I get it because I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm going to miss my flight, you know, I'm not going to be on time. You know, I hate being in lines, I hate being impeded. I've just learned to be the watcher of it because I've integrated that where I know that's a part of me. And now that actually gives me a lot more control over it. And now those judgments, I can actually smile at them, I can laugh at them, I can tell on myself on interviews, and I can soothe myself and let people wear whatever the fuck they want to wear to the airport. Mm-hmm. So by integrating myself, all parts of me, then I in a sense, I'm a better person. You know, I'm not that harsh, critical, angry, judgmental, you know, thinking I'm a nice guy, be it I can snap like that. So there's just, and this is an ongoing process. It's an ongoing journey. I still watch the stuff come up, you know, and I still work at lovingly not judging myself. And I still watch my nervous system get triggered by various things.
Yeah.
And I just notice it quicker. And I usually have a better response rather than an old reaction that I used to have.
That self-awareness is invaluable. I remember it was 2 years ago when I met my most recent girlfriend. We broke it off recently, but I had a buddy of mine who asked me to go on a bar crawl, and it was like I was in limerence chasing a girl who had no interest in me, and I was like, maybe she's kind of showing me signs, and she had no fucking interest, but she was just trying to be nice and let me down easy, and I was like, well, maybe, and I just kept going. Eventually, he asked me, why don't we go on a bar crawl together, meet some different girls, and I was like, who's gonna like me? I don't really do bar crawls and all this stuff. It was on Halloween. And that day, I remember
did you dress up?
Yeah, I dressed up as Michael Phelps. So a lot of people tell me I look like him.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. I had like a USA swimming and like gold medals around my neck and goggles on.
And a Speedo, right?
It was under my pants, yes.
Okay, all right.
But I remember that day he asked me, I remember thinking like, well, here's an X, Y, I told him like, I'll have to think about it. And that was me saying like, I got to find a reason why I can't go.
Yeah.
But I ended up drinking a lot of like caffeine that morning. I had like a Celsius because I was just really sluggish. And all of a sudden my mood just went like 180 about myself. Like the morning I woke up, I was like, I feel like I look like crap. Who would ever want to date a guy like me? Why doesn't this girl like me? My life sucks. Drank some caffeine. Was like, I'm the best looking dude ever. Holy crap. This girl can go fuck off. She has no interest in me. I went to him immediately. I said like, I'm going on his bar crawl because I'm going to say no once his caffeine wears off. But the funny thing about the bar crawl was that night I met a girl who was my girlfriend for about 1.5 years. And I remember at the end of the night, it was like 3:00 in the morning. We're all going back to our apartments. We're parting ways. I go to the bathroom and I'm washing my hands and I'm looking down, washing my hands. And I look up in the mirror and immediately the first thought that hits me was like, oh my God, you look like a cave troll. You look like crap right now. And I stopped it and I was like, well, hold on. This girl has been talking with me, laughing at my jokes, smiling at me, interacting with me for the past 4 or 5 hours. I don't believe this internal view of myself right now. I've got proof externally. And you start to realize like, wow, how many times you can just, that criticism, that judgment of externally, or your nervous system getting triggered by certain things can just sabotage your own perception of yourself and then the world around you.
And it is so interesting that how easily sometimes that can change, even like with some chemicals. You put some caffeine in you and all of a sudden you felt like, hey, I am Michael Phelps. I remember when I was single in my late 40s and 50s, I got divorced in my late 40s and I'd never really lived alone as an adult. I got married the first time 2 days after I graduated from college. I went from the dormitory to being married. And there wasn't much of a gap between my first and second wife. And so I'm out there in the world as an adult, living alone, kind of just trying to figure out, how do I do this? I'd been married for 25 years to the two women. So I'd always been married, then had kids, family, dog, all that. Now I'm just alone. And I'd get lonely. And I'd see, couples. I lived right next to a park. And I'd look out my window and people walking through the park, holding hands with their kids, their dogs. I go, everybody has love but me. And I go, well, I did used to have love, kind of. And then I would go to this coffee shop near me I could walk there, take my newspaper, take my laptop, take a book to read, whatever. And they had these mocha milkshakes that had coffee, chocolate, ice cream. Yeah, I don't know what all was in them. And I remember I could go into that coffee shop, sit down, and just feel lonely and sad and like, oh, the world is so heavy. Drink one of those milkshakes, and I get done and go, damn, I feel good. I'm happy. And you know, and luckily it dawned on me that this is probably why people drink. This is probably why people gamble. This is probably why people look at porn. The chemical reaction makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was actually a good experience for me. I came up with the term chemical L, that we humans have chemical L. I call it loneliness, because it's meant to drive us to connect with other people. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. And when it dawned on me that just a milkshake with some caffeine and chocolate and fat in it could make that chemical L feel just fine, a few things dawned on me. Well, I understand addiction a lot better and why we do tend to get addicted, but it also made me understand loneliness better. That loneliness was just a temporary state of feeling. It wasn't a reality. It was just, okay, in this moment, I'm feeling disconnected. And that's meant to drive me to connect, not go find a girlfriend, not go get laid, but to actually create genuine connection. Right? That's what most of us men do, is when we feel lonely, we think the answer is a girlfriend. You know, we think the answer is, you know, sex, with porn being the next best option. Or for some people, porn is the best option. But so when it dawned on me that this was just a feeling state, a transient feeling state at that could go away just with a milkshake, when I just then would just start sitting with it and just noticing, oh, I feel lonely, I would just sit with it and not try to change it, not go down any kind of rabbit hole, just, I feel lonely. And then usually about 4 or 5 minutes later, I'd notice I'd gone back to doing something and I'd even forgotten that I felt lonely. So again, being this observer of self and just noticing these things, whether it's the self-criticism, the criticism of other, states like loneliness that we want to go medicate away. These are such important tools in any kind of process of living a more conscious life and living the kind of life that we want. Because, you know, if every time I felt lonely, I went and drank one of these mocha milkshakes, I'd be as big as a house. And probably diminish my ability to actually invite someone into my life that wanted to come hang out with me. So being that observer is such a powerful process.
Yeah. I know you mentioned how when you start to get to the point of observing yourself and really seeing what's going on, you start to learn to stop listening to it so dramatically, knowing it's going to pass. And then when you get to that point, you can start really getting to other people's space. And I know you talked about this a lot, how a lot of men are convinced there's no one out there for me. No, girls don't like me. They don't show me any interest. There's no signs. And you're like, no, there's a ton of signs. Like,
Often,
maybe like popping their chest forward, popping the hip to the side. They're making eye contact. But if you won't see it, or if you see it, those self-limiting beliefs, like she's not looking at me. She's looking at someone behind me. She's not putting her hip out of me. It must be somebody over there. It must be something different. And after a while, you realize, like, this might be something. Who knows?
It is amazing, though, how resistant we can be. Because that was me. You know, I've been working with men for well over 30 years. And then, you know, after I got single and got halfway good at dating and getting laid, you know, guys started saying, Robert, teach us. What are you doing? I'm not a dating guru. Yeah, but it's working. What do you... And, you know, and so, you know, I found there's a lot of factors. You already mentioned self-limiting beliefs. I had so many self-limiting beliefs for much of my teenage and adult life that women don't like sex, women who think men who want to have sex with them are bad, women aren't physically attracted to me, I'm not attractive, I don't have the, you know, the Brad Pitt kind of look, or I'm not, you know, I don't have enough hair, whatever, you know, they're just not attracted to me, which was even kind of ridiculous because I even remember after my second marriage, you know, even having still lingering some of those, attractive women aren't attracted to me. And it dawned on me, my second wife was gorgeous. I mean, everywhere we went, people go, that's your wife? She's gorgeous. Kind of like, how'd you get her? And so these self-limiting beliefs sometimes, you know, every bit of evidence flat out denies the belief we have, but we hold on to the belief anyway. It keeps us safe is a main thing. We've had that belief forever. So whether it's these self-limiting beliefs, fear of looking foolish, fear of getting rejected, fear of, having a drink thrown in our face, fear of getting trapped or smothered even. We've all got these, most of us have these self-limiting beliefs. Most of us have, just the stuff that gets in the way. And for me, it was just challenging a lot of those. And one of the things, as you said, that for me is I did have to start becoming aware of the indicators of interest that women show. Women don't tend to put up a billboard that ask me for my number, dumb shit. They do other little things. And again, but if we don't believe women are attracted to us, and often we're so invested in the hot woman, we got these blinders on. Oh, that woman is so hot. If I could have her as a girlfriend, my life would be perfect. Yeah, you don't know. You have no idea of what your life would be like if you had that hot woman in your life. And then so what happens, there's all these other indicators of interest that we just ignore or tune out. And sometimes they're even so blatant. And so when I work with guys around paying attention to them, they're often, dismissive of them. Oh no, that couldn't be about me. Oh, really? The indicators of interest, a lot of these dating gurus tell you, oh, if she's twirling her hair, no, that's just a sign of stupidity. Stupid women sit and twirl their hair. Oh, she crosses her ankles. No, she probably is trying not to fart. But there are some pretty clues, and sometimes they're so friggin' blatant we still ignore them. Not long after I got divorced, I was taking a Spanish class for adults, and there was a woman in there who, I could tell well enough she kind of liked me, had a crush on me. She talked to me a lot and was flirty, but she would say things like, oh, maybe after class we could go get a drink and work on our Spanish cards together, and maybe like play strip Spanish. That's a pretty blatant, IOI. And one time actually, I had an extra ticket to a baseball game. So, for whatever reason, took her along. We're at a baseball game, and I'd started dating a woman, but we weren't quite boyfriend, girlfriend status. And we're at this baseball game, and she says, would your girlfriend mind if I fucked you? And I'm, well, we don't really have that established yet in the relationship, but I said, let's go. So, but you know what? There's a part of me in previous times, I would have still not walked through those open doors just because, well, I don't know. Did she really mean that? So it's not often we are our own worst enemies. So, when I see these men, whether it's MGTOW, incels, blaming the hypergamous women out there, this, that, and the other thing, I'm thinking, no. It's probably your self-limiting beliefs. It's your insecurities. It's your fears. Even when men get obsessed with a woman's body count, how many men has she slept with? Oh, if she has a high body count, she's not capable of intimacy or connection. And I'm going, all right, tell yourself another story that keeps you from saying yes or walking through an open door. Why does her body count matter? But again, men get caught up in all this silly stuff instead of just saying yes. And I went through what I call my integrated man whore phase in my 40s and 50s. I wasn't looking for sex. I didn't push any woman to have sex with me, not one. I haven't tried to get a woman to have sex with me since my second wife, and that's been over 25 years ago. And that was a 14-year marriage. I'm constantly trying to get her to have sex. But I gave up on that. I quit doing that. Swore off trying. These women were, propositioning me, getting naked on first and second dates. But I'd made a commitment. I would say yes to every sexual opportunity. Were all those women 10s? No. Were they all fun? Yes. Every one of them. Did I enjoy yes, immensely. And, so we get our focus off the 10s, get our focus off, let go of our self-limiting beliefs, start taking risk. Reward is won through risk. Take a chance that maybe she is sending you those signals. Be bold, walk through that door, see what happens, lead, see if she follows. Just a lot of basic stuff that if we get out of our own heads about this and our own old belief systems, some really interesting stuff can happen. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned, I believe in your book, The Dating Essentials for Men. What I thought was really funny is how men tend to, I guess they look at female attraction from a man's perspective.
Well, of course we do. We're men. We're just going to have to live with that part. All right. Here's the mistake men make. We get a dopamine rise out of seeing a woman's physical form, whatever, how she looks, her body, her shape. But that's fine. That's great. We're meant to be aroused by their feminine form, right? We're meant to objectify them physically. Mother Nature wants that. Here's the guy problem, the guy mistake. We confuse that dopamine hit, that good feeling, that warmness, that feeling in our crotch, our inability to take our eyes off her. We confuse that with the belief that either she's going to be good in bed and or a good girlfriend. Those three things are complete separate categories that have nothing to do with each other. The problem is we confuse and conflate. Feels good to look at her. She must be good in bed. She must going to be a great girlfriend.
Yeah. And it's what's funny, I think what the other side of that is the idea of, you mentioned, I think also among workshops you've done and books and some in the book, the idea of just like, well, I can't get any girl to like, all right, well, did you get a haircut? Did you clean your nails? Take a shower? Wear some decent cologne? Dress nicely? Polish your shoes? Clean your car? For the God's sakes, clean your house, your apartment. And this is a funny story for me. It was about years ago. I had a girl in high school. I was like 10th grade, I was like 15 years old. I had a huge crush on her. She was like the hottest girl in the school. Approached her, took my shot. She wasn't interested. Friend zone. Unfortunate. We got to be friends. Years later, after college, I think it was, she moved to Florida, came back. She was in town, and I had really worked on myself. I started working out a ton. I got into really good shape. Dressing much better, much more confident, and she had helped me through a lot of stuff in high school as far as my own insecurities around like things like fashion and dressing properly and whatnot.
Sure.
And so I was like, hey, you had like, that was like the first starting point of me like taking care of my appearance and then working out and then being confident. Everything just got better from there. You were like a starting point. I want to thank you for that. So I asked her to like go out for a drink just to catch up because she's only in town for like a week or two. And so we go out for drinks. We're catching up, we're talking. She's like 2 Long Island iced teas into it, and she's just
there's the magic formula right there. One Long Island iced tea usually will do the job.
She's fidgety. She can't sit still, kind of parting her hair and all. And she was in town because her cousin got into a car accident. She wanted to see him, and I was like, I had no idea that I had this effect on women because like my perception of myself did not catch up to how I actually look, and it just took a long time to catch up.
It takes a while for a lot of us.
And so I'm just like, everything okay? You're thinking about your cousin? You want to get out here? You're good? And she just kind of like straight up looks at me and she goes, I'm really horny and you're really hot. And like 10th grade me was like, oh my God, the hottest girl. And the horror of the story is I took her back to my place and my room was a disaster.
Oh,
it was a complete mess. And she immediately was like, I'm going home now. This is not really for me.
The question was, how horny was she? Yeah,
not that horny.
Well, and you know, the point here is that I know some guys will object and say, well, I shouldn't have to do X, Y, or Z to get a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But, you know, as people have known for all time, and, you know, a guy out there named Orion Tarabant's got a show called
I read his book. Yep.
Yeah, I've read his book. He's interviewed me. I've interviewed him. Mm-hmm. And he says basically, and I say this in Dating Essentials for Men, I say it a lot more simply than Orion does. When I interviewed him, I said, Orion, do you have a tendency to make things overly complicated? He goes, yeah. I go, you did. You know, basically, I read this first chapter that goes into all this economic theory of exchange of value and how the value can be variable, but to have a relationship, both people have to get something of value out of it, and how men and women are different. And finally gets to the point where basically he says, you know, men are attracted to Barbie, women are attracted to Ken. I go, that's it. I had to read all that long to get to that point. But yeah, I talk about that in Dating Essentials for Men. Every relationship has an exchange to it. I call it cooperative reciprocal relationships. You and I right now have a cooperative reciprocal relationship. We both agreed to spend some time together, cooperative, and hopefully it's a reciprocal relationship. We both get value out of it. I get some visibility from my books or my programs. You get somebody to come on your show that might, you know, help your show get a few more subscribers and likes, and we get value out of it. That's the nature of a relationship. And a relationship where one or either party is not getting value is not going to last. And so, you know, I asked in Dating Essentials for Men, you know, would you want to date a woman that looked like she never exercised in her life and maybe spends her day, you know, watching Kardashians, eating Cheetos and never read a book and can't pay her bills? Or I used to say balance her checkbook, but I don't think anybody does that anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And the guys go, no, I don't want that. And I go, well, okay, you want some woman to bring something to the table, to bring some value. You have to bring something to the table. Now, unfortunately, men buy into a lot of this red pill stuff that, well, you got to be alpha. You got to have the V body, the big jaw, six pack abs, lots of money, fast car. I'm trying to think of somebody that said it was 666.
Yeah, you're 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, 6-inch dick. Yep.
And 600 horsepower car.
Yeah.
So no, you don't actually. Just like we don't have to go out with a prom queen or the hottest woman to enjoy a woman. We were attracted to a lot of different things. And so these self-limiting beliefs really do get in the way. But the truth is, though, we do have to bring something to the table. Now, I'm a big fan of bring you to the table. Be an interesting you that somebody would want to be around you and hang out with you. If the you, sits around, plays World of Warcraft till 2 a.m, sleeps in, surfs the internet, spends time social media, liking Instagram models, then jerking off to porn for a couple more hours, then binging on Netflix, then back to World of Warcraft after smoking a joint or two in there, and ordering out from, I don't know what they have in the U.S., Rappi, Uber Eats, and all of a sudden, I'm red pill, I'm alpha. No, you're not. You're not. But you don't have to be that chiseled, alpha for women to be interested, because I'm not that at all. I'm an easygoing, nice guy. I'm not alpha. I'm not super high achieving. I've never in my life I had 4-pack abs at one time for about 4 hours, long enough for the photo shoot. Then they went to hell in a handbasket. And I've never had the super big income, but when I was comfortable in my own body, comfortable in my own skin, playful, funny with women, engaged, not giving a fuck if they liked me, they found that very attractive, and they still do. I mean, my wife is 22 years younger than me. She still points out women younger than her that are giving me, the lean, showing me the cleavage shot, jutting a hip, flirting with me, trying to get my attention, standing between me and her, things like that. And, it still happens, and I'm not doing anything to try to make it happen. It just happens, mainly just in terms of how I am in my person. But yeah, when I talk to women, if I'm on an airplane or somewhere talking, and we get around to what do I do? And I work with men about relationships, and however deep we go into that. And if I say I teach men to date, or they'll go, all right, will you tell men this? Okay, I know what you're going to say, but yeah. Clean your fingernails, trim your nose and your ear hair, polish your shoes, make sure your clothes fit you well, good repair. Because here's the reason why. It's not that they are so concerned that you look perfect. That's really not what this is about. But if you think about it, there's a couple pieces here. One, evolution wired women to be security-seeking creatures and look to men to be their security system. Yeah, they can go out and make a lot of money. Yeah, they can get their own degrees. They can buy their own cars. The truth is, though, no matter how high achieving women are nowadays, all studies show they still want a man who's equal or higher achieving than them, right? And so, number one, they look to us to be their security system. And if we look like we can't fucking take care of ourselves, well, how do they think we're going to take care of them in any way? Now, again, this isn't that we have to take care of them. It's more of a presence, just like, it's like, I give the example that if you interact with a woman with confidence, that triggers that thing in her that Mother Nature put there. And I say, if you interact with a woman with confidence, she's going to have the exact same brain chemicals that you would have if she lifted her shirt and showed you her tits. You don't think about, do I like those? No, you're just, oh, I can't believe it. She just did that. When you are confident, when you look like you paid attention to you, she has the exact same feeling you do when you get to see her tits. So that's how powerful that is. Now, here's the other piece of it. If she is going to have sex with you, basically she is going to submit to you. She's going to open to you. She's going to let you put your body parts inside of her, right? That's sex. And if she looks at you and goes, this guy, he's got ragged fingernails, they're dirty, his clothes look like shit, he hasn't shaved, his, a little mousse at least in the hair, or just shave it more. Whatever it is, if they're looking and going, this guy does not pay attention to detail. This guy is not going to penetrate the world. This guy's not going to penetrate me either, right? Or he's not going to do it well. He's going to do it clumsily, half-assedly, lazily, because if that's what they see you as you walk the planet, they're not going to go, oh, I want that inside me. They're not. And it's not just, again, because they just want the six-pack abs or the money. They want a guy who's conscious enough, pays enough attention to detail, that he's going to be conscious and pay attention to detail with her. And so these pieces add up. And again, it's not like, oh, I've got to have six-pack abs or spend a ton of money on styling or hair or this or that. You just have to look like you paid attention. And like same thing, with your apartment. When I got my own place, I hired a decorator. I rented apartments in, but I could change a little bit of color, but not a lot. But I had rugs, I had lamps, I had furniture, I had artwork, I had Pima cotton 600 thread count sheets. I had a beautiful big oak bed. I had a flat screen television back before very many people had flat screen televisions. I had good booze in the freezer, candles, good music, because I liked that. I liked coming home, walking through my door of my apartment. It's clean. There's no dishes in the sink. The towels in the bathroom are hung up. My bed is made. The lamps are on. I left my apartment that way every time I left because I like coming home to it. And I also left it every time not knowing who I might bring home. Yep. And maybe that's, for some guys, just fantasy, wishful thinking. But I can count a number of times where I went out somewhere, not even going out on a date, maybe just, going out to listen to some music or going to a salsa class, and brought a woman home. And, when they come in and they walk through your apartment and they all walk with their hands out like this, looking around going, did you do this? Meaning, did you decorate it? I think I see a woman's touch here. They go, did you do this? And then the other question was, does it always look like this? And because they're going, if I pay that kind of attention to detail, they're in the right place, right? And so then when I say, hey, take your clothes off and get in my bed, and they're walking to my bedroom, unbuttoning their shirt saying, I can't believe you tell me what to do. I never let men tell me what to do. But because I told her to do what she already wanted to do, because she was I'd already penetrated her with my presence and my consciousness and how my space looked. She was already open. She was all ready to be opened even further. But I had to pay attention to those details. Now, I didn't do it to get women. I did it because I wanted to live that way. It felt good to me. The beneficial side effect was it opened women as well.
Yeah. You mentioned about the World of Warcraft thing and like all the stuff. You refer to it as the Nursery, right?
Yeah, hanging out in the nursery where everything is pushed to you. Everything is easy. And, it's where we hang out with women that there's, what's the word you use again for when you had a crush on a woman? I love
limerence.
Limerence. Yeah, limerence.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't limerick, but I knew it was close. So, yeah, where you have crushes on women, you're obsessed with women that don't know you exist. You're looking at Instagram models. You're looking at porn. You're playing video games. You're binging on Netflix. You're surfing the internet. You're, looking for likes on social media. You're swiping right on dating apps with women you never even contact. And there's nothing required of you.
Yeah.
Again, you can drink, you can smoke, you can eat fast food, and still call yourself Red Pill with all that. And because you read Red Pill forums, so that makes you Red Pill. And you think, yeah, it must be because the women are all hypergamous. That's why they don't go for me. No, it's because you're a little boy. You've never grown up. And maybe it's not even your fault. Maybe it's my fault because I've not provided you with the masculine initiation you need to get you out of the nursery, get you out into the world of masculine, where you're internally validated through masterful action, making a difference in the world, making a difference in you. That then is highly attractive to the feminine. The feminine isn't interested in a little boy that, still seeking mommy's approval and can't take a risk. And I'm not trying to be mean or harsh.
No, it's truth.
But
Yeah.
it's just so easy nowadays for men just to get caught up in doing nothing and not do anything meaningful. And again, it's mainly because the men in their lives, whether it be their fathers, other men, they've just never been initiated into the challenging world of the masculine. But the beauty of once you get into the masculine world, so trying to please the feminine, like trying to please mommy, trying to please our babysitters when we were little, trying to please female teachers in school, the feminine is a moving target. You throw the dart and maybe you get lucky and you hit it. Oh, you got a smile out of them. Throw the dart, same way next time, you miss it by a mile. Maybe they're even angry at you this time, or they're critical, or the feminine is a moving target. It's the weather. It's everything that's not nailed down. Masculine, you know where the targets are. You know what it takes to get a promotion. You know when you've hit the home run. You know when you've made the basket. You know when you went out and you bought yourself, that new car. You know where those markers are. That's internally validating, and that feels good. Once you've hit those markers and you're internally validating, the feminine of the world looks around and goes, that looks good. That looks interesting. I'd like to be around that. I'd like to get close to that. And again, it's not hypergamy. It's not, there are gold diggers out there. That's our fault. All the sugar babies out there, all the OnlyFans out there, who the fuck's paying for them to do nothing and make big bucks absolutely doing nothing purely because they're genetic celebrities and we're stupid and we mistake that dopamine hit to the brain for that they're good in bed, they're going to be good girlfriends. Just having a pretty woman at our side is kind of like, oh yeah, I'll pay good money for that. Yeah, what does that get us? So we got to get out of the nursery. And some guys they can lift themselves out and go, maybe they get to the gym and start working out. So that's a good place to start. Maybe they even build a click funnel and offer a product and actually follow through on it and carry through, learn from their mistakes and go do it again. That's how we get out of the nursery. Now, just waiting for tomorrow to start our company, or waiting for tomorrow to build the click funnel, or waiting for tomorrow to go to the gym, or waiting tomorrow to quit smoking dope, waiting for tomorrow to quit looking at porn. Tomorrow doesn't come. We just keep doing it. And I'll wait till tomorrow to go talk to women. Wait till. No, we got to get out and do it today. Doing. The masculine does. We got to get out and start doing. And it doesn't have to be monumental. Many times I've not felt like going to the gym, but I drive there anyway. I go in, change my clothes, go stretch on a mat and go, okay, I'm good. I'm done. I went to the gym. I got to stretch in, but maybe, I'm here. All right. I'm going to go move some iron around. So we gotta get into the world of doing.
Yes.
That's where men get their internal validation. Everywhere else, they're like women. They're getting external validation and trying to get, again, the external validation of women. Good luck. I've never succeeded at it for any length of time.
Talk about Peter Pan syndrome there with all the boys and whatnot. Yeah. And I know I had this thought, I can't see if I can pull it up, but it was like, you talk a lot about outcome agnosticism. And it's
love that term.
Yeah. And I remember there's something I had a thought. It was something along the lines of like, what is the outcome that will show me that I'm outcome agnostic? It's like, that's not the point of it in the first place.
That's still kind of attached.
That's still attached, not realizing like, how do I become outcome agnostic? Like, what's the end goal? It's just like, you're missing the point completely. And learning to, like you mentioned with the gym, like I've had days where I wake up and I'm lying in bed. I'm like, I have no desire to move. But I know if I get up, go for a walk, get some water in me, some sunshine in my face, in 10 minutes, I'm going to be really happy I moved.
Yeah.
Not wanting to go to the gym, feeling like crap. You go to the gym, 10 minutes in, you're like, I'm so glad I'm here right now. This is great. And just keep pushing past that feeling until you start to become just normalized to doing, making action. And then more and more things start happening in your life and life gets better and better and better.
Well, there's an irony to that being outcome agnostic, being equally okay with every possible outcome. Buddha spoke, 3,000 years ago about how attachment to outcome is the cause of all suffering. But he said that's a human condition. And he said that we can actually use our suffering to transmute suffering into joy. And when I talk with guys about being outcome agnostic, they'll actually get angry at me, like I made this thing up, and I'm put like you shouldn't want that pretty girl, or you shouldn't want to make $1 million. And that's not really what I'm talking about. But the truth is, whatever we are attached to, that will make us suffer. Whatever we're emotionally attached to will suffer. Okay, we're going to suffer as human condition. But we can also pay attention to where we're suffering and notice what we're attached to and go, is there any way I could be equally okay with every possible outcome?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is, guys get this backwards. They think, well, if I'm not attached to a specific outcome, why would I even get out of bed? Why would I go talk to that woman if I wasn't attached? But here's the deal. That's what's called first order change. And this is something you don't hear talked about much, but to me, it's so profound. We're grad school stuff now. This is what I learned in grad school. First order change is where you do A, hoping to get B. All right, so you're attached to B happening. You try to figure out what's the best A to get me to B. So, I want to get laid. So what's the best A to get me to B? And sometimes A can make B happen, but then sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it happens not like we expected. But we're attached. We want it to happen like this. So we keep trying to adjust A to get B to happen. And it doesn't matter if we're trying to get a girlfriend, trying to get our kids to behave, trying to get our boss to give us a raise, trying to get our wife to want to have sex with us when she hasn't wanted to in 15 years since the kids were born. Whatever that B is, doing more of A is kind of the Einsteinian insanity thing. Doing some more of the same thing, hoping for different results. So first order attempts at change is if I do A, I should get B. But the truth is, the world rarely works like that. It rarely goes along with our mathematical formulas of how to get from A to B. Second order change is where you just fundamentally shift something in the system. And the example that I heard in grad school, and this applies to like me as a therapist, is that, those little the toys over a baby's bed
Mobile.
The mobile.
Yeah.
It used to be the little butterflies and flowers. Yeah. And it's to get the baby's eyes, connecting with their brain and hand-eye coordination. Now you wind them up and they just move. Oh, no wonder kids love to be everything pushed to them. They don't have to touch the mobile anymore. The mobile will just turn for them. But if you took the old-fashioned mobile, this had some sticks, some string, some flowers, some butterflies. And if you go up to the mobile, it's above the baby's crib, and you perturbate it, you touch it, you move it, and you get it spinning. The question is, how can you know where it's going to come to rest? And almost everybody, about 1% of people actually figure it out, but about 99% of people, you can't. Or the engineers, well, if you do a mathematic formula, the truth is, it's actually a simple answer. It will come to rest exactly where it was when you perturbated it, because the system, nothing changed in the system. So wherever it came to rest the last time it was perturbated, it will come to rest exactly the same space, because whatever its balance and gravitational pull is, it will keep being the same. So it doesn't matter how many times you hit it, soft, light, right hand, left hand. If nothing changes in the system, it will still come to rest in the same place. That's first order, right? I'm going to keep doing A, hoping B would be different, but B keeps ending up being the same. Second order change is maybe you clip off one of the flowers, perturbate it now, you have no idea where it's going to come to rest. It's unknown. Now, once the first time it comes to rest, you now will have an idea the next time where it will. But that first time, you don't know where it's going to come to rest. So that was always my job as a therapist. When a couple would come to me, well, we have this problem. If I bought into their definition of the problem and just took sides with them and tried to get them to do more, that I'm not going to help them at all. But if, for example, I could get them to reframe the problem, like, I'll give you an example. I was leading, back when I was married to my second wife, she became a therapist after we got married, and she had a women's group. So I knew most of the women in the groups because most of their husbands were in my men's groups, or I'd done couples counseling with them. So one time she was out of town, so I was leading her women's group. And this woman was complaining that her husband was so lazy that they were sitting watching TV, and they all had their little TV trays, and they had like a 4-year-old daughter or whatever. And she told her husband, she was bossy, and he was a nice guy. She said, I told him to go get some ketchup for their daughter. So he dutifully goes and gets the ketchup, sets it down on the daughter's tray. And she goes, I was so pissed off at him. I got so mad at him because he's so lazy. He couldn't even put the ketchup on the tray for her. And I just looked at her and I said, could there be other possible explanations? And what's in it? I go, could he was trying to empower your daughter and give her choice and freedom over how much ketchup she had and learn to put her own ketchup on her own French fries? You really don't still want to be putting ketchup on her French fries when she's 17, do you? Well, I said, maybe he wasn't being lazy. Maybe he was actually being thoughtful and encouraging the differentiation of your child. I don't think so. I think he's lazy. So she wanted to hang on to that. So here's the deal. Anytime we can work at being equally okay with any possible outcome, does the mobile come to rest here? Does it come to rest here? That actually gives us a lot more room to take action and take risks and do new things, because it doesn't matter where it comes to rest. I'm okay with it. If it comes to rest over here, great. If it comes to rest, that gives me a lot more freedom to act. Now, if I'm just wanting to come to rest in the place I want it to, the only option I have to act is this one repetitive action. And if it doesn't work, I tend to quit doing it at all and don't do anything else.
Yeah.
So actually non-attachment, being equally okay with every possible outcome, being outcome agnostic, actually frees us up in life to try a lot of things because we're not worried about how they're going to come out. We go, I think this would be cool. I'm going to go give it a try. I think that woman's, attractive. I'm going to go talk to her. You just do it, and you're okay if it goes well, and you're okay if it doesn't go well. Now, if you weren't okay with it not going well, i.e. you're attached to one outcome and one outcome only, odds are you won't go talk just because, what if I don't get the outcome I want? Well, I better not risk it. But if you have no attachment, and maybe you go talk to her and you find out, dumber than a stump. I'm glad I talked to her and found out, I'm glad I didn't go home kicking myself for not talking to her. I'm glad I talked to her. I found out I don't want to hang out with her. So this non-attachment gives us freedom in life to actually live a bigger life, a more spontaneous life, a bolder life, rather than the life that says, well, why do I want to get out of bed today? Well, let's get out of bed today because there's lots of adventures waiting for us and we don't even know what they are yet.
Yeah. Something that popped in my head earlier, I forgot to mention, was really funny. We're talking about the signs of like putting yourself together, looking good and whatnot. And I remember one thing that really popped out with a recent girlfriend I had. At some point I asked her, like, what do you find attractive about me? Because I'm still in my head. I'm still thinking all that stuff. So it's got to be like big biceps, I'm tall, this and that. And she said, like, you dress well and you have really good posture. It's really sexy. And I remember like all the stuff like you like I have a 6-pack, nice car, and it's just like just pop your shoulders up and put a nice collared shirt on, and boom, you're right there.
And again, I try to help men see that kind of thing, because I've asked women before too, either what they found attractive or they just tell me. And the things they tell me are not the things I think or the things you'd read on the internet or hear from the gurus. Women tell me, say, I like your hands. Okay, they're kind of proportional. That's all I can say about them. Or they say, I like your bald head, and I don't say, I'm not bald, I'm shaved. Or they go, I like your kind eyes, or I like your kissable lips. I like your laugh. And I'm going, well, but what about all the 6s I heard I was supposed to have for you to be interested in me? Now, the truth is, it may not actually be any of those things, but that's okay. Because it goes back to that thing that if this is the thing I've been sharing for a while, and you mentioned, the Chris Williamson interview. I said this to Chris. Now I've heard him actually repeat it on a few other interviews.
Yeah.
But the feminine is highly attracted to a man who's comfortable in his own skin. There's that good posture thing, right? You like you, right? Knows where he's going and looks like he's having a good time getting there. That is highly attractive to the feminine.
Yeah.
There's a gym right basically across the street from my house. There's a park in front of my house, and then just right on the corner of that park is a gym. So a lot of people go walking by, men and women both, either going or coming from the gym. And I tell you what, I'll be in my kitchen and I'll be doing something, and somebody will walk by, and if I notice a guy that, as this woman said, just has good posture, he doesn't even have to be big buff, just he's got good posture, good frame about him, his shoulders are back, no gut on him. And doesn't even matter what he's wearing. Could be shorts and a tank top, might be nice clothes, but he'll walk by. I'm a guy and I'm straight, and I find that inspiring.
Yes.
I'm inspired by the guy who looks like, not only does he go to the gym, but he knows what he's doing at the gym because he stands straight, he's got good posture, he's not hunched, he's not slumped, he's not overdeveloped. And, a lot of guys go to the gym and only work on what they can see in the mirror.
Yep.
But, when a guy is well developed, you see it. And when his clothes fit him well, I look at that and go, I like that. I want to look like that. So it can be as simple as what this woman told you. Hey, I like that your shirt didn't have any wrinkles in it and you stood up straight. Yep. It can be that, because that was enough to tell her he pays attention to enough detail that I can let him penetrate me. Mm-hmm. He'll pay attention to what's important. And again, we men make it way too complicated. We really do. And, again, I can't tell how many women say, tell them to get rid of the old shitty tennis shoes, clean their shoes up. Why? Because women look at each other's shoes. That's what women look at. They look at each other's shoes. They look at each other's accessories. So, they look at ours. And, women don't know what kind of watch this is. A guy that knows watches will know. But she will notice, that seems to be a nice watch. It doesn't scream expensive, but it's the same one that James Bond was wearing in Casino Royale when the woman on the train says Rolex and he goes, Omega. It's the same watch. And I've only had one woman really compliment me on the watch. Men will. But they noticed the subtle little things about it. And I've gotten laid without the watch too, so it's not essential.
What are the major pushbacks you get from guys when you start to do this work? Because they'll come to you saying, like, I can't figure out what it is. No one likes me. And you say, like, well, let's talk about your self-limiting beliefs and, this, that. And then just where does most of the pushback start to come from? Like, what do you, certain angles?
The pushback usually is subtle through inaction. Because like, I remember when I taught my first dating workshops. I'd already been teaching No More Mr. Nice Guy workshops, but when some of my clients said, Robert, what are you doing? Teach us. And I thought, okay, I'll codify what I'm doing. And so I can teach it. So I did. I taught it in a weekend workshop. Later it became a class. Later it became that book you held up. Mm-hmm. And I remember teaching a couple of these workshops, and these were a lot of these guys were men that I knew. They were in men's groups with me, or maybe they were local in one way. And I'd get responses from guys and go, Robert, thank you. This stuff works. I got, 6 numbers last night. Or, I was talking to these really great women I wouldn't have talked to before. Or I've got these dates lined up. Or, I'm having a lot of sex. Guys would say it works. And it does. And then I'd connect with other guys. Say, well, how you doing, since the workshop? Oh, nothing much. Nothing really. And I go, well, how come? They go, well, honestly, I haven't done it. Okay, you haven't gotten out of the house. You haven't expanded your route. You haven't lingered in public. You haven't talked to the people. You haven't tested for interest. No, I really haven't done anything we talked about. I said, well, wait a minute. You paid good money to come to that workshop. You spent 2 days with me of your good time. I gave you all the tools you needed. Other people are using them and they work. And how come you're not doing them? Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm still afraid I'll look foolish or I'll get rejected. Yeah, there's some reason inact. And so me, I'm always curious about stuff. That's why I write books. I get curious. Right? What's this thing, this nice guy syndrome that I've got and so many guys have? Or how can I learn to date? And then I didn't set out to write a dating book, but guys asked for the information. Mm-hmm. So I get curious. Why do some people take the information and use it and some don't? Especially when it's relatively easy information to apply and relatively, you see results quickly. And I really got curious about that. And I could apply the same thing to my men's membership program that we're just this week, tonight at midnight UTC, we'll close enrollment until the next 28 days for the program. And typically we get 50 to 70 guys a month to come and pay, to be part of the program. And they're excited. I was on a call earlier today, a drop-in call, all the, 28 guys on the call. Some of them already are members. Some, are going to just join. Some are going to join. And they're all excited. all looking for men's programs. They're all looking for connection with men. They're all looking for support. They're all looking for accountability. They're all looking for it. And we provide it. We give it. But yet I know with a membership program, because I've been running one for a long enough time now, there's also this attrition rate that all membership programs have, that even though we're giving them what they say they want, they'll start dropping out. Most attrition rates are around 50%. People sign up for something believing this is what they want. And then, a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, no, not for me, or I've been too busy. So what people do is they don't usually just come out and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go out and test for interest. I'm not going to get out of my house and expand my route. I'm not going to join, some of your calls on there. I'm not going to post on. They don't say that. There's not that verbal pushback. They just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't do it. Now, I'm even though I'm judgmental, I'm not going to be judgmental because I get it. I've signed up for stuff that I never did. It seemed good in the moment, paid money, signed up, whatever, and go, I really am too busy, or I just really don't have room for something else on my plate right now. I get it. We are all busy, all of us. We live in a busy world. And we all have our self-limiting beliefs that feel familiar, normal, who just kind of talk us out of things. Later. Do it later, not now. You'll have more time later. You'll have more energy later. Don't do it if you can't do it all right now. Just wait. And those little voices just whisper, and so that's how most guys will react to anything that I teach. They may up front say, I love your book. This made sense. This is great. This is exactly what I need. And then a month later, cancel my membership. Okay, I used to hurt my feelings, but I've kind of gotten over needing that external validation. It almost feels more like a loss, like I'm losing a friend. Like, man, this could have been good. You and again, whatever people's reasons are, they're good reasons. But we're creatures of habit. We tend towards isolation. Let me just kind of hang out by myself. No high expectations. I don't want anybody to know how really, you talk about how harsh your judgment was of yourself in the past. Did you really want to go around and expose that to people and let other people know how harshly you judged yourself? No, probably not. You kept that to yourself. And if you got vulnerable and real with people, you might have to let them see not only your harsh judgments, but what you believe to be true about you, that you really were a loser. Do you really want to go open up and just let people say, here I am, I'm a loser? I know it's obvious. No, it's obvious to you, but it's not going to be to anybody else. We don't know that.
Yep.
So we're used to just that isolation, I'll just gather more information. Your generation is the best informed generation that has ever walked the planet. And you're also the most immobilized that I've seen. Because there's always more information. Hey, there's more podcasts I can watch. There's more audiobooks I can listen to. There's more online seminars I can take. There's more ways to build a click funnel I can go study. It's just more information because it's easy to gather information. Putting it into practice is challenging. It can be frightening. It involves the unknown. It involves some consistency, some focus, some determination, some hustle. And if we don't know we're capable of that, we'll just gather more information and start it tomorrow. So that's how most guys vote. They vote through their inactivity, not indirectly challenging me, going, Dr. Glover, I don't believe what you're teaching is true. I rarely actually hear that. Most guys go, oh, Dr. Glover, how'd you know me so well? You nailed me. I'm going to sue you for invasion of my privacy. So, and it's not that I think I'm right or have all the answers. I just know I've made a lot of mistakes and I've learned what doesn't work. And I try to just teach, what does. And it may not work for everybody. And I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. If it works for some people, that makes me happy.
I have a friend, and it was the funniest thing. I was talking to him about learning, just getting him to practice saying no, asking for what you want. Don't be afraid of getting rejection. He's a chiropractor, and he's got some patients here and there that they're just problematic patients. They don't do the work. They don't do the stretching exercise on their own.
Uh-oh. I went to the chiropractor yesterday, and I haven't stretched yet today.
And somewhere in the conversation, he was talking about feeling uncomfortable with firing patients, getting rid of them and things like that, or not bringing them on board in the first place. And it kind of overlapped even with his personal relationship with his wife and his life and how certain things. And somewhere he mentioned, "Oh, I'm doing NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming."
Yeah, I know what it is.
And he mentions, like, "Yeah, it should be good for like sales and this and that." And I stopped and I was like, "Okay, that's great, but make sure you're not just taking this course to avoid the actual practice of learning to say no."
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, like, "How fucking dare you call me bullshit?" Like, that's exactly
that's what our men friends are for. That's, you know, we really do need guys in our life to both love on us, support us, and go, bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, we need that. And you know what? You know, my fourth book that I co-wrote with one of my coaches called The Big Stick, and it's just, you know, it's just an overview of a lot of stuff that I've taught in my books, my courses, and we called it The Big Stick because I use that term a lot. And that's one reason I love working with men is that I can take out the big stick and smack them upside the head, and they'll go, "Thanks, Dr. Glover." You know, thanks. You know, nobody's ever done that with love before, and you know, because I'm not mean. You know, one guy posted on the forum for my men's program the other day, said, "Has anybody else had this problem? I've been dating this woman for a couple of months and she's got 2 ex-boyfriends that keep sending her text messages. You know, what should I do? How can I get her to quit? How can I?" And then he was trying to manage this woman.
Yeah.
And some guys were kind of giving a few answers. And I just posted, I said, "What, is she your property now? Are you trying to control her?" And he just wrote back and said, "Oh, Dr. Glover, thanks for the punch in the gut." and he meant it. He meant it. He'd fallen into a behavior of like she belonged to him. She was his property. He had to manage her. You know, that's the ugly side of the patriarchy that we've heard about for so long. That ownership. You belong to me, therefore I can, you know, control you and tell you can't get messages from your ex-boyfriends. You know, if the woman wants to be with him, she's going to be with him. If she doesn't, she's not going to. And if he doesn't like sharing her and her, you know, keeping other men around, he can move on, right? But trying to get her to change. So anyway, he said, "Thanks for the gut punch." So that is why I like working with men. And your buddy probably deeply appreciated you just, you know, lovingly saying, "Don't forget to do the work, buddy."
Yep. Well, I'm actually curious. I wanted to ask about that. Not to degrade women by any means, but you mentioned before, like how you love just taking a stick out and just smack them and they go, "Oh, thank you, I needed that." What is the difficulty you found with working with women in these contexts of getting them to work with you?
Well, I don't work with women.
Or previously, if you did, but you decided at some point not to. What was the?
There wasn't ever a decision not to work with women. The decision really was kind of an evolving thing. That, you know, again, my background's marriage and family therapy, so I've worked with a lot of women, both individually, couples, family therapy. Done a lot of work with women. In fact, for example, I'll give you one example. A woman I worked with years and years ago. She was in, you know, a marriage. She wasn't really in love with her husband. I worked with her probably on and off for a couple of years, and then for whatever reason, I don't know if she got a job. I think she'd been a homemaker. She went and got a job and didn't have time or whatever. And she quit coming to see me. And then maybe a couple of years later, she got back in touch with me and she said, "You know, by the way, I got divorced. You know, and I'm on my own. I'm out working. I'd like to come back and see you again." So I started working with her again, and she came in, and every session she came in, she just wanted to complain about her boss. Her boss was a woman, and she just would complain about her boss. And, you know, this is therapy, so we'd explore. All right, you know, what do your conflicts with her mean? How might you deal with it differently? And you know, this went on for a few weeks, and after a few weeks of this, she goes, "Dr. Glover, do you notice every time I come in that I complain about my boss?" And I go, "Yeah, you do that a lot. That you always are trying to give me suggestions for what I might do different in those contexts." And I go, "Yeah, that's kind of what my job description is." She said, "Can I just come in and complain about my boss and you not give me any like suggestions for how to do it differently?" And yeah, this is where I can get away with saying stuff to a guy that doesn't always fly quite as well. And I go, "You could not pay me enough to sit here and listen to you complain nonstop." And I'd known her for a while, right? So I said, "You decide. Do you want to come in here and work on your stuff, or not? Because I'm not going to spend any more time listening to you complain. She didn't come back. But I heard from her again a couple years later. I said, Robert, can I book a session with you? She said, I'm in a new relationship with a guy. I have some issues. I need some feedback. You are the only person I know I can trust to tell me the truth. I said, sure, come on back. So even with the woman, that paid off. Now, I'm not saying that women, won't deal with the truth or won't deal with their stuff, but as a marriage therapist, I learned if a couple comes in and they've got their defined problems, and if I start with the woman about her, quote, contribution to the issues, they almost never came back. And I learned if I started with the guy and started dealing with stuff like, cleaning your fingernails, stuff, the more basics, of consciousness and presence and telling the truth and leading in the relationship and things like that. The women would often, look at their husband and go, I like this guy. He understands women. or they like, and then once they knew I'm kind of, holding the guy to the flame and working on his stuff, then they actually start telling on themselves and kind of revealing themselves. And, in that context, whenever a couple would come to work with me, I would ask them, what have you guys done up to now? Have you had other therapy, worked with other people? And if they said, well, we've had another therapist or two, I'd always say, what happened? And was it helpful? Did it work? And they, usually, well, it didn't work out. Now, I've asked the couples and I've asked men individually, and said that they'd gone to couples. And I asked, whose decision was it to quit going to therapy? I'm not making this up, and this isn't anything negative to women. 100% of the time, it was the woman who decided they weren't going back to that therapist. Okay. Now, I thought, okay, maybe this is just my projections on women. So I went to a conference, this is several years ago, with a guy named Terry Real, who's actually pretty famous and really high up in the marriage therapy world. And back then, he was charging thousands of dollars a session. Mm-hmm. And someone told me recently, somebody really famous, he's their personal therapist. I can't remember who they said it was, but he is then was a self-identified feminist, and kind of high up in the feminist movement, whatever that means. And he said the same thing. In couples therapy, you can't start with the woman because she won't come back. You got to start with the guy. And the way I liken it is, okay, if they came to me for salsa lessons, I couldn't start teaching the woman how to follow if the guy didn't know how to lead. Right? I got to start with the guy, teach him a couple moves. Once the guy knows a couple moves, I can teach the woman how to follow with those moves. So I got to start with the guy. If it was salsa lessons, I'd start with the guy. So that's just the model I used working with couples. Now, I didn't make a decision that I wasn't going to work with women. It's just that it's kind of a matter of, how big is my plate and how much can I put on it. That when No More Mr. Nice Guy came out, I was already doing a lot of work with men, leading a lot of men's groups. When I closed my private therapy practice in Seattle area, I was leading 5 men's groups a week. And just my business just filled with men. I've still seen some women, but just more and more it was men. By then, all the workshops I was doing was just with guys. I found if I did co-ed workshops with men and women both, the women would talk, the men wouldn't. And so I thought, if the men are going to talk, it's got to just be the guys. Yeah. And that's not the women's fault. That's just guys. We don't want to say anything stupid or get embarrassed or have a woman, not approve of us. So it just evolved that I worked with men, and mainly I just love working with men. I just enjoy it because I can take out the big stick. I can give them the gut punch. They don't go away for 2 years and then come back. They'll go like they used to, if they were in a men's group with me, they'd come into a group, session and go, Robert, that thing you said to me last week, I really took offense at it. I was pissed at you. I wasn't ever coming back again. But I sat with it for a while and kind of figured you might be right. So thank you. I'm back. I've heard that so many times from men. It only took them a week, not a couple of years to get around to, well, maybe that's what they needed to hear. And so again, it's just that I only have so much time in the day, and I love working with men. My books are all directed at men. I get us, So I just think it's the best use of my time and my experience and my expertise.
Absolutely. I could ask you a million more questions, but this has been a fantastic time with you. Thank you
It's
so
been
much.
fun. It's been fun.
Thank you. Your 2 books are, we'll put them more Mr. Nice Guy, and the other one.
Well, I got 4 of them that you
got 4 now. You got 2
2
more I missed out on. Where can we find your content?
drglover.com. You can find my courses. You can find my workshops, find my podcast, information about the books. IntegrationNation.net is my men's program. And if you're looking for a connection with other men, there's a lot of good places to get it. Good news. And I think this is a good one too.
Awesome.
So check it out.
Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
That's fun. Invite me back. When you do 100th episode, invite me back.
I'll let you know. Thank you.
All right.